Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Out here in the desert today, it's about 50 degrees, wind's blowing. This is middle of March, so it's pretty cool. I'm in the bus, and I thought it'd be a good day to talk about mountain dogs, snow dogs, the Pyrenean mountain dog, which is also known in the U.S. as the Great Pyrenees. Give you a little history of the Pyrenean mountain dog. They do come from the eastern side of the Alps in France. They have a long lineage of history. Um, but they are used in the mountains to ward off predators from their flocks. And they do herd sheep, goats, any kind of animal. They will guard. And their predators at that time were wolves and bears. So in the U.S., they're basically coyotes because there's more coyotes, and they will fight off bears, wolves, mountain lions, cougars, but coyotes, I think, is their main predator in the U.S. because they are basically nationwide. But in the history of the Pyrenean mountain dog is they are known as Pateau in French, which is Pyrenean mountain dog. And I'll give you some stats. They are usually white. They do have some white with patches of wolf gray, badger, and reddish tan. It could be on their heads or up to 1/3 of their body. So the badger color I read is basically a mix of like a gray, a tan, a lighter colored, and some of them do have some black in them. So if you see a Pyrenean mountain dog, a Great Pyrenees that is not all white and has spots on them, they are very definitely could be a Pyrenean mountain dog or Great Pyrenees. They do have double dew claws on their back feet. That's a very telltale sign. So they'll have 6 toes on their back feet. And according to the Kennel Club, from what I read on Wikipedia, is there are rules that they put into them. If they are missing some of the toes on the back, which are the double dew claws, they are disqualified from their event. And also, if they have any black in their coat, they will also be disqualified for their judging event. So, but like I said, they do come a long way, and the stats are they range from 26 to 31 inches high from the shoulders down, and their weight is, according to Wikipedia, anywhere from 120 to 165. I read differently, so they could range from I think 80 to 160. I've heard people tell me they've had 180, 200 pounds. So you don't know. I mean, it just depends on the dog and the area and how much how much they're eating. But that's a little history of the Great Pyrenees. And now we'll go on to the star of the show, which is Zen, my Great Pyrenees, and we'll talk about him. We're going to just kind of discuss to see if the Great Pyrenees, how they would fit into people's lives, if they would be a fit into certain families. So we're going to kind of discuss his characteristics because I know him. I've had him for almost 5 years, so I can kind of tell you what to expect or out of mine, and it may be typical in the breed and it may not be. So we're going out here, we'll find him, we'll put him on camera, and we'll give you some show and tell. Stay with us. Before we go out and find the Zen, I know he's not too far away because he's chained to the bus or leashed to the bus. We're going to, I'll tell you about how I got him. He was given to me as a birthday gift, and this was an arranged item, so don't worry about it. He was planned on giving to me. Don't give dogs to people for birthdays or without let them know. But he was 7.5 weeks old and 12.5 pounds. And the cuteness overload is coming because he looked like this. And he went through some awkward stages growing up, long and lanky like most children, dogs do. And he was, growing up as a teenager years. But it takes about 2 years for the dogs to, especially the big dogs, to mature to become actual, dogs. So they're still kind of puppies. They're still growing. They haven't developed all the way through until they're about 2 years old. So now he's almost 5. So he's, I call him middle age because they only live to be 8 to 12 years old. But let's go out and find him. We'll put him on camera and we'll start talking about the Great Pyrenees here in the desert. All right, we're outside. We found the dog. You want to come over here? Come on. Come on. No, come on. There he goes. They're very strong-willed, very independent, so they do their own thing, as you notice. So they don't always come running through. But their lineage on the Great Pyrenees goes way back. They used to be the French noble dogs back in the 1700s on the King's Court, and so they've got some history behind them. And I also read that in the late 19th century, that with the eradication of the wolves and the bears from the Pyrenees Mountains, that the Pyrenees breed, the Pyrenean mountain dog, almost became extinct. So, and they basically started selling them to the European and the British to kind of help get their population out. And they didn't actually get to the U.S. until around the 1930s, is what I read. So they're pretty new to the U.S. dog breed, probably a little less than 100 years old. Not saying that they weren't any here before the 1930s, but that's when they started getting more out. So they've come back, and they're everywhere now if you've seen them. But we're just some observations. Like, I'm not a professional. This is just what I have seen, what I've heard, and what I've read about the characteristics of the Great Pyrenees. And this goes for a lot of dogs also. Is we'll just jump right in there. And some people ask me, are they good with kids? He is. They're usually, the Pyrenees are really good with children. They're very mild-mannered, very easygoing, very loving, and very caring. And he likes kids. He doesn't like if the kids move too quick, if they jump too fast, or so I've got to be careful when they're around little children because they kind of startle them. But they're good for children. He's good with children. And I've also heard that they're really good for guarding the children. And maybe not just guarding them, but I've heard stories of people say that their grandparents or their friends can't get around their child or their small ones when the Pyrenees is around because they will kind of get in between them. So that's probably a good thing. But well, the next thing is, people say, oh, he must eat a lot. No, they don't do much. They basically sleep most of the day, and they're basically, while they're working, they're basically sitting around watching if they're guarding. So they don't do a lot of energy usage. And so he may go through and only eat sometimes maybe a cup of food a day or no food a day. And then he may eat 4 or 5 bowls of food the next day. So it's a hit and miss thing. And he gets a dry dog food with a meat puck that I put on top. Just a kind of a meat patty thing that you can buy and break it up. And sometimes he eats that and sometimes he doesn't. He gets a few treats every once in a while. Well, he gets too many treats. But he likes those. He likes the paw. This is the pure paw. This is just like I said, they're very strong-willed. You can train them, but they're very difficult in long-term training. But they like to put the paw up on people and animals, and that basically, here you go. There you go. This is just, he doesn't want to shake. He just wants to put his paw up. Sometimes it may be 10, 15 minutes. He'll have his paw up on my arm or on my leg or somewhere. I think it's just basically that they're social dogs and they want to be in contact with somebody. Kind of like, I've got your back, I've got you covered, so they give you a paw. And so just hangs there like that. And so he'll lick. And the one thing I've noticed about the Pyrenees and red too is they're not face lickers. So you can put your face down here and they won't lick it. For some reason, they don't like licking faces, but they'll lick, he licks my fingers and licks my hands, but they're not face lickers. So that's a good thing. So we got the food covered, and people ask me, does he shed? Yes. I tell people that they only shed twice a year, and that's the first 6 months and then the second 6 months. Because they're long-haired dogs, as anybody who has a long-haired dog knows, they shed. And you'll have fur in your food, in your drinks, everything you wear. You'll have fur on every crack and crevice of everything you've ever owned. And long after they're gone, you'll find fur for a long time. They do shed a lot. They drool a lot. You'll have drool hanging down this far. They drool a lot. One of the most barking and drooling dog breeds out there. Um, so, and the more he sniffs, the more he checks around sniffing it, the more he drools. So, and usually he doesn't drool only when he's out doing something. So they do drool. They like to dig. He's got a huge hole over here by this creosote bush. They love to dig. So if you're out and you got a small yard or a yard with petunias and daisies, they're going to be destroyed because they'll dig them up and in place to find a cool spot to lay. They like cold. The colder the better because they are a mountain dog. They are a snow dog. So if you see one of these that's laying out in the field somewhere and it's snow all over them, they're fine. They'd rather have that than they would have sunshine and warm. So they're cold natured dogs. They're long haired. They've got extra fur on their chest and the neck and around their hindquarters. And they got a curly tail. When they're, and his tail will curl up. All the dogs with tails will curl up when they're happy or excited. And when they're just kind of like happy-go-lucky or every day, their tails will drop down, straight down. He's got, like I said, he's got the double dew claws on the back. So he's got 6 toes on the back of his feet. And they're just, he's just a good, in my opinion, they're just good overall dogs. They're big. They don't take up a lot. They do take up a lot of space, but they don't need a lot of space. Like if you're in an apartment or somewhere small, they're actually pretty good from what I read. And this bus is 200 square feet. I was knocking on the bus. This bus is 200 square feet, and he does fine in there whenever we're in the evening and walking around because most time he's outside, but he's great on the smaller spaces. We do get about maybe 6 miles a day walking, so they do need some exercise. So we get some of that. He's heard something. He heard me knocking on the bus. But so they don't need a whole lot of space to be happy. They are happier if they're out, like any dog would be happy out running around. One thing they do a lot of, and he doesn't, but their breed being a guard dog, is they guard at night, and so they will bark all night sometimes when they're in the fields and when they're working. But you can kind of train him when you get him when they're younger. Like he was basically kept inside, and we kind of break his night schedule where he didn't bark much. He was in the house. So when you go to bed, they go to bed and they don't bark. So pretty quiet. He does bark when something provokes him, or he hears something, or smells something. So they will do that. But if you have neighbors, and your dog is outside, they're not going to like the barking all night long. I can probably guarantee that. Does he get along good with other dogs? He gets along really good with other dogs. He likes almost every dog out there he comes across. He has some issues once in a while with other male dogs that are about his age, and once in a while, not every dog, but just every so often you'll find one that something doesn't click, and they'll let out a couple of barks at each other and go on. There's a couple of dog breeds that he doesn't really care too much about. I think he could maybe thinks them as kind of like a predatory style. So he's kind of a little leery on them. He'll watch them and he may bark at them. But if you got him on a leash, just keep them separated from all dogs. You can kind of tell how they react around other dogs. The small dogs, it's kind of funny because they just chew all over him like nobody's business because they think they're huge dogs. And they'll come up and they'll be grabbing his neck and chewing on his feet and everything else and barking, and he's just like, so what? But they're good with dogs. They're good with cats. They're really easy with, I think, most any animal. He doesn't chase squirrels. They don't care. Doesn't chase rabbits. Cats will lay on top of them and sleep on them. He loves cats. And they don't really, they're not mean or aggressive to other animals. And that may be, just basically based on the animal themselves, because their breed, I think, usually is to protect, not to take care of them. But like I said, they're great dogs. You want to sit there, yeah. They're really good emotional support dogs. They're good for as any dog would be because they're they're good comfort dogs. They know when you're having a bad day, and they know we'll come through, and they'll give you a, you know, they'll do a paw. You do a paw. No, I'm not going to do a paw right now. Okay, but yeah, they're good emotional dogs, and you got to remember too that any animal that you get is you've got to be into it for long-term commitment. Especially if you want to keep them, they're good to have, but you just can't keep them for a day or two or a week and then decide you don't want them anymore and give them back or get rid of them. You need to make that thought before you actually get an animal that they're going to be with you a while. So you got to make a long-term investment, long-term commitment to keep them going. There's my neighbors driving by, but yeah, they're they're good dogs. What else we did? Yeah, we got the drooling. They do drool. They do shed a lot. They dig a lot. They bark a lot. But most dogs do, and they're just great to have. You'll get used to it, and they're just great to have. He barks, like I said, when something provokes him. But he also, and this may just be with him or other dogs, if we're in the bus and I leave to go to Walmart or to the grocery store somewhere, and I leave him in the bus because he can't go with me, he's got separation anxiety, and he'll start barking. And he'll bark the entire time and bark until I get back to the bus. So that's the only time he really barks a lot. Or if I'm getting fuel, I have to bring him outside the bus because he'll bark if he can't see me. But it's not all the time. But he's getting kind of grown out of it as he's getting older. It used to be that he would bark as soon as I closed the door, like to go to the bathroom. That's not the point anymore. But he likes to be around. I think I'm his herd, so he likes to kind of guard and be around me. But they're, like I said, they're a great breed of dogs. They're an older breed of dogs, and like I said, you got to remember this too. One thing is, as you have any dog, you're here all of their life. They're here part of your life. So you got to be good with them. Give them some treats, give them some belly rubs, and you'll just get a lifetime of love. There you go.